Hello everybody, my name is Kendra and today I am going to share with you how to make a little tunic top or dress in about 30 minutes. What I'm going to show you today is very basic. The dress that I'm wearing right now, very basic. However, it's a great starting point and easy to modify, even by something as simple as getting a pattern piece of fabric. Doesn't require any more skill, but kind of changes the look a lot. You can do something like add a pocket on the front, but make it longer or shorter, add a split hem or a high load bottom, all these little modifications. And if you're interested, I can show you how to do some of these. However, this is kind of basic step one, how to make it. Now for this project you are going to need some stretchy knit material, and depending on your size and whether you're making a shirt or a dress, you're going to need about 1.5 meters to 2 meters, possibly just one if you are very small and just making a top. I'm going to be using both my serger and my sewing machine today. However, if you just have a sewing machine, you can still make this project. You're just going to want to use a zigzag stitch. So anytime I use my serger, go ahead and use your zigzag stitch. Gonna lay out my fabric, and you always want to make sure that you check the direction of your stretch, and just to make sure that you're cutting the correct way. You need it to be stretchy to get over your head and just to wear. I'm gonna go ahead and fold my shirt in half. So I do want to mention this shirt has a set-in sleeve, meaning these sleeves are attached with a seam. And for the shirt we are going to be making today, it is actually this style of cap sleeve where it just kind of comes off the side and you don't have to worry about sleeves. We'll be looking at tracing through to the armpit and then just angling out to make that cap sleeve. You want to leave some seam allowance so that when you sew it, it won't be getting super skin tight. So remember, I'm leaving the length here, so I'm going to just be starting right at the bottom here. And I'm going to try to remember that if this is coming down to my hips, I want to leave it kind of as much room as I can. Mommy. I'm going to start angling in. You want to make sure not to cut your shirt. And you can see there's a gentle slope in the center here for the waist shaping, and I'm just going to copy that for my cutting. I didn't leave a ton of room. I don't want a really long sleeve because I'm probably going to be wearing this like with a cardigan in the winter. So I don't like having a ton of extra space that would be kind of flapping. You can see my selvage I just rolled, which usually does happen with knit fabric. Alright, and so it depends if you're doing the back first, you want to follow the back of the shirt, or the front, you can follow the front. And for my last seam, I'm just going to imagine there's kind of a dotted line connecting these two cuts. Yeah. I've just folded over from my cut edge, and I have made it wide enough to put my previously cut piece right on top. So I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. Going to line it up same as before, and you'll recall we are doing the front now, so pretty much the only difference, we're going to trace right on top for our sleeve, but at the front we are going to make it a little lower. Again, I'm just going to fold this up a little bit so we can see we wanted to line up here for the shoulder, and I'm just going to come. It does need to be a lot lower, just depending on what you want. I'm probably going to go just 1 inch or 2. And even folding like this, I'm just trying to mark the point, and you could use a pin too, of where the shoulder lines up. Now we have the front and back. I'm going to fold them, slide them out of the way, and our last piece to cut is going to be our binding edge. You can always use your ruler to measure, say like how tall your sleeves are, and then multiply it. You'll need obviously twice as much for each sleeve. I can just lay it down and measure and see, okay, I'll need, you know, approximately a little more than what just comes up, just to make sure that you have enough room. And you're going to be pulling it fairly tight as you go, just to help it lay flat, so you don't have to worry it's too exact.
So this will be for one of the sleeves, and you're going to want to do the same for the other sleeve, and a little narrower for the neckline. You can see in my simple guide I have just lined it up with one of my straight lines on my cutting mat, and I'm going to go ahead now and line my ruler 1 inch below, so that'll give me a 1/2 inch all the way across. So I've gone ahead and laid my pattern pieces right side together. I've gone ahead and added our binding pieces that will be going on after, just to kind of give you the picture. So first we'll be sewing a shoulder seam, then we'll take our neckline binding. I like to fold it in half, sew these short ends right sides together. From there, we will be opening it up, folding it in half, so that our nice closed edge here will be on leaning against the neck. So if you have your shoulder seams done, we will then be placing this down, and it can be good to stick a few pins in. Right sides together again. So it'll be face down, and when it's sewn, it'll be up and lay flat. Then I move on to the armhole binding part, and from then I like to sew the side seams on both sides. And the very last step after all that will be to do the hem. Just be feeding it right through.
So once the shoulder seam is sewn, we're going to take our binding strip and fold it in half so it's right side out, and we're going to hold it alongside the armhole. And as you sew, you want to make sure you're holding it at one side, start at one corner, go to the other, and you're going to be pulling it just a little bit, just enough that when you let go it's going to lay flat. You don't want it too much, just a bit as you feed it, and make sure you're not pulling the shirt itself, or it's going to end up kind of wavy. So pull this one, hold it on, sew a little bit, and keep on going. You can see I have attached my binding, and the next step after that I've gone ahead and done as well will be that you fold it right sides together so it's inside out, and it'll be time to sew it starting right at the armhole, and you feed it through your serger or your sewing machine all the way down the body, right down to the hem. But you want to start folding that in half, making sure that the underarm is lined up, and following it down on both sides all the way down. So do the right and do the left, sewing those side seams. Once those sides are sewn, I'm going to go ahead and turn it right way out. And we're going to use our iron and fold up the hem. So I'll show you on this piece what I mean. I like to iron it flat, and I've tried without, but it makes it a lot easier when you do take the time to iron it. So you'll make sure that you're working on the inside. So even though it's right way out, you're kind of just looking at the back part. I'll show you on the side here so you can see. And I like to iron it flat, and then I'm going to fold it up once and iron, and fold it up again. So it's that raw edge is totally combined in there. And so I'll just press it, and it'll just make it a lot easier when it's time to sew. Once it has been pressed, we'll go ahead and sew that right where we ironed down all the way around. Sew it up. Now for this, I do use a straight stitch, but I do again with the, I have it set on a long needle length. But you could, if you have a cover stitch machine, you can always use that, or you could use a zigzag or something that gives you a little more stretch. Although I find as long as I'm not pulling too hard, using a longer stitch length works for me. Once you have that sewn up, you're going to want to come up and top stitch around the neck hole and as well around the arm bindings. And I use the long stitch length again, and I try to make sure that you can either press it down first or just make sure that it is lying flat, and that really makes sure that that seam's not poking up and flipping over. So starting in one corner, you just sew all the way around, following the curve, and try not to pull it again as you go, but stay as consistent as you can, and do the same thing around both of the armholes.
Alright, that really is all there is to it. I hope that this has taught you something, or it has encouraged you to jump into sewing clothing. It really is not nearly as scary as it sounds. If you are new, please subscribe for more videos. I have recently changed things up a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to adding some more sewing videos coming up soon. Alright, till next time, bye!